We'll be starting at the left side of the stage this time, and we'll alternate with each question to try to make it fair for everyone. Buddy Smith of the American Family Association, get us started.
Good evening, gentlemen. Marriage has been a socially protected union between a man and a woman for the physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual reproduction of children in every culture and nearly every time in history. States have a special interest, and human beings have a psychological, emotional, and spiritual interest in man-woman couples that stay together to rear children. If elected, will you support a federal marriage amendment? And what else will you do to protect the institution of marriage?
Dr. Ron Paul.
I think the best thing the president can do is set a good example, and I would start with having been married 50 years and proud of it. I believe also that I do not see any need for another constitutional amendment. I think we have fallen into a trap that we have to redefine marriage, or we're on the defense of defining marriage. Why don't you just tell them to look it up in the dictionary and find out what marriage says? For federal legal purposes, the Defense of Marriage Act is proper and it takes care of all the problems. If you have to have rules and regulations, put it at the state level like the Constitution says. But you know, marriage only came about, and getting licenses only came about in recent history for health reasons. It has nothing to do with it. True Christians, I believe that marriage is a church function. It's not a state function. I don't think you need a license to get married. We should define it.
As you will see by the ultrasound video on the screen, science confirms the undeniable unique human being or person in the womb. In Roe v. Wade, author Harry Blackman himself stated, if this suggestion of personhood is established, the appellant's case, of course, collapses. By the author's own words, Roe v. Wade has collapsed. If elected, what will you do to make our laws consistent with our science and restore legal protection and full rights of personhood to every American waiting to be born?
Dr. Ron Paul.
As an OB doctor of 30 years and having delivered 4,000 babies, I can assure you that life begins at conception. I am legally responsible for the unborn no matter what I do. So there's a legal life there. The unborn has inheritance rights, and if there's an injury or a killing, there is legal entity. There's no doubt about it. I am surprised that I don't have more co-sponsor for the Sanctity of Life Act that I have, which would solve all this problem and would have eliminated a lot of abortions by now if we'd have passed it, and we wouldn't need any amendment. It removes the jurisdiction from the federal courts. If the states were allowed to pass this, immediately it would go into effect. Instead of waiting years and years and years for an amendment, this would happen immediately by a majority vote in the Congress and a president's signature. There's much easier ways to accomplish this by following what our Constitution directs us to do instead of looking for massive new laws. Let's just use what we have and pass this type of legislation.
Rabbi Spiro.
There is no question that jihadists have as their goal the harming of America and its citizens. What would your strategy be to protect our streets, our people, and our American way of life from the designs of radical Islam?
Representative Paul.
We indeed do have a problem, but if we go at this incorrectly, we're going to do more damage to ourselves than we are to our enemies. We have to understand the motives who come here and kill us. And if we don't understand that, we are not going to win this fight. They come here and kill us because we occupy their lands. And they rationally reason and come and say, we have to do something about it. If you're going to regulate Islamic thinking in this country, be careful, because all the rules you set will be used against Christians. So protect civil liberties. If you use the violation of civil liberties when it comes to habeas corpus and secrecy and all, we are going to suffer from this. If We could have done something before 9/11. We should have gotten the government out of the way on regulating our airlines. We should have had more respect for private property, the Constitution, and especially the Second Amendment, and we wouldn't have had to face the crisis on 9/11 nearly as bad. So